In Commander, and especially casual EDH, most decks have some sort of top-end big finisher that they're working towards. Their finisher could be a combo, or it could be something that just creates a lot of value or has a really strong synergy with other cards in the deck that can get you very close, if not all the way to a win. For this list, I'm doing my top 10 budget finishers. Not all of these cards will be combo pieces. Some of them are more similar to Craterhoof Behemoth, where they're just big, powerful finishers that put a lot of power on board or give you a lot of advantage. And everything on the list is, at the time of recording, under $2. Alright, kicking off the list is Rooftop Storm, an enchantment that makes all your zombies cost 0 mana. Now, this in a zombie deck is absolutely backbreaking. Being able to just unload your entire hand of zombies is really good. Now, sadly, this does not let you loop your commander infinitely with a sack outlet because commander tax is added on afterwards, and Rooftop Storm just gets rid of the mana cost. But it can still be really powerful if your commander is a zombie. Rooftop Storm is a really strong card in zombie decks, and if you're in blue, I would recommend picking one up. Moving away from zombies to artifacts and enchantments, Brilliant Restoration is an excellent finisher. Late game, this can often turn an empty board into a game-winning one. When the game's gone long and there's a lot of artifacts in your yard or a lot of enchantments in your yard, this can just set you up to win the game right then and there, or at the very least in another turn or two. Getting back 4, 5+ cards with this is so powerful. And there's a lot of self-milling synergy here too. If you mill yourself a lot, you can also utilize Brilliant Restoration to accelerate those pieces into play. Another artifact finisher I like is Saheeli's Artistry. This is really great if you make a lot of tokens, especially if you make a lot of treasures, foods, clues, thopters, whatever. Basically, if you have one big artifact in play, you can then turn all of your artifacts into a copy of that. Turning a bunch of random clues you had lying around into a worm coil engine and swinging out at an opponent with, 7 worm coil engines is really dangerous, and that can easily knock a player out, and at worst you would gain 6 times 7, man, I'm bad at math, 42 life. Personally, I really love Saheeli's Artistry, and I just like using it in a lot of my decks, and I feel like almost nobody plays the card. I mean, it's like a 15-cent card. It's crazy, nobody plays this thing, it's so good. Warstorm Surge is another amazing finisher. I was shocked to see that this card's like 25 cents. It's a massive threat, especially because it just deals damage whenever a creature enters the battlefield. Not when you cast it, which means blinking, reanimating, any other form of having your creatures enter the battlefield will just let it deal a ton of damage. This works if you're making a lot of tokens or you're playing big creatures. It's a super useful card. Not only that, it deals damage to any target. You can hit people's faces, but also if you're just putting 2 1/1s into play, that's 2 damage you can use to ping down a small creature or chip away at a planeswalker. Warstorm Surge is 6 mana, which kind of brings it down in power level, but overall it's still really powerful. Octavia Living Thesis is a really interesting card from the 2021 precons. Not only does she make an awesome commander by herself, but in the 99 of many Spellslinger decks, she's incredible. If you're a deck that plays a reasonable amount of instants and sorceries and also can make token creatures, maybe something like Talrand, then this is probably a good finisher for you. Casting a couple of cantrips and turning those drakes into 8/8s is really strong. And Octavia only messes with the power and toughness, which means if you have a 2/2 flying drake, it then becomes an 8/8 and retains flying. Octavia is a super awesome and interesting card. I really want to see more effects like this. Plus, with Ward 8, this is basically hexproof. Could not imagine somebody actually paying the 8 mana. Sepulchral Primordial is a card that I think has fallen in popularity in recent years. Back in the day, this was the go-to mono black finisher, but I think it's still really strong. A 5/4 with Intimidate is fine and all, but the fact that it steals a creature from each opponent is awesome. It's very often able to put 15 or more power into play, or get a lot of utility out of powerful into the battlefield effects that just end up in your opponent's graveyard over time. Pairs really well in mill decks as well, and I just like the Primordial. Don't forget to flicker it to double up on that ETB. Death Kiss is a card I've talked about once or twice on the channel before, but I do think it's a really excellent finisher. So it basically doubles the power of your opponent's creatures if they attack one of your other opponents, and you can monstrosity it. I've won multiple games by turning this monstrous for just 2 or 3, and then having that player attack 3 creatures at another opponent. 3 creatures doesn't sound like a lot, but when their power is being doubled, and you're picking the 3 biggest creatures on the board, this ends up being a lot of damage. I don't think you need to be a full-on go deck for this card to work, since it kind of does everything by itself, and passively incentivizes your opponents to attack one another anyway. Genesis Ultimatum is astounding that it's only $1. I understand that it's in teamer colors, which means there's probably not that many decks that want it, and that's probably what's keeping the price down, at least for now. It grabs the top 5 cards of your library and puts any number of permanents onto the battlefield. If you're creature focused, artifact focused, enchantment focused, battle focused, whatever, this card is so strong, and at worst, it draws you 5, which I know you ideally don't want to draw 5 off of this, but drawing 5 cards is still pretty good. I think there's a lot of multicolor elemental decks that I think really should be playing this card. Looking at you, Math. Here's another really overlooked finisher, Fevered Suspicion. 8 mana in Rakdos to make each opponent exile cards from the top of their library until they hit a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among those without paying their mana cost, and it has Rebound. So this is always 8 mana, draw 6, cast 6 of those spells for free. Now, you can whiff if you hit like a counter spell or a rampant growth or something like that. It's not amazing, but considering it has Rebound, so you're going to be doing it twice, and you're getting 1 card from each opponent, I've never had this card totally whiff. It's always been powerful every time I've cast it, and this is an absolute blast to copy. If you ever fork this and just do another set of 3 cards, it's so sweet. And for the final card on this top 10, 1,000 Year Storm. I don't think I need to tell anybody who's seen this card that it's powerful, but if you haven't seen it yet, basically it gives Storm to all instants and sorceries. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets copied for each other instant or sorcery you've cast this turn before. So slightly worse than Storm because it's not all spells, but you get the point. This is an absolutely busted card in any Spellslinger deck. You go Gitaxian Probe, draw a card. Opt, draw 2 cards because you're casting 2 Opts. Then you go Extra Turn spell. Then you cast that 3 times, take 3 extra turns. Then during one of those extra turns, you cast another cantrip into something else, and then you copy that 3 times, and so on and so forth, and you basically win the game with this. Now, 1,000 Year Storm was a pretty expensive card for a while, and then it got reprinted in Double Masters, and it is just under $2 right now. But I don't think it's going to stay that way for long. If you don't have a copy of this, and you like playing Izzet Spellslinger and Commander, pick one up sooner rather than later. And if you're watching this video well into the future and it's already back to being a $10 card, I'm sorry, it's still probably worth it at $10. That card is nuts. So what do you think of this list of finishers? Do you play any of these? Do you have any others that you would like to add? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your suggestions for other finishers and where to put these ones. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more.